Howdy, y'all. It's your boy, Mr. J Mike, again. I have been asked by more than a couple of you to do another video, which obviously was not my intent. I did not, I really just wanted to say goodbye, give you some parting words, but a lot of you have hollered at me and said you would like to hear more from me. So I figured I would do that. Now, the reason I'm doing it now at night in the dark with this glare and this um, apartment behind me and all that is I think I finally had it all what I wanted to say and how I was going to get it across, and so I decided I would do it now when I still had my thoughts together. Um, so I wanted to go a little bit deeper into some of the things I had said before. I want to talk about three things today. Your feelings, which I talk a lot about. I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about thinking. So track with me, if you can. The things that I've had a lot of you comment or more email, you've emailed me and talked to me about um, kind of where y'all are and what's going on is you're feeling very numb, feeling very alone, very frustrated, very annoyed um, by not just high school, but an isolated high school, which is very different from, I think, what any of us have done before. You're having to deal with Microsoft Teams, which is total trash, and I think everybody knows it. I'm sure your teachers know it. You're having to deal with a bunch of faces of people that you really can't talk to, that um, you really only see on a screen. There's no real person-to-person connection. There's nothing tactile about it, and so it can bring you down. It can certainly make you feel alone and frustrated at a lot of things, potentially your parents, certainly this nation, uh, probably your teachers too, because they don't have any idea what they're doing, and so you're thinking, man, these boomers need to get their act together. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that and how I could be more helpful to you. The first is that, like I've said a million times before, your feelings don't have to reflect reality. It's totally cool to feel like your teacher is total trash and them not actually be total trash. It can be like, I'm just in a bad mood today. I'm in a bad mood this month. I'm in a bad mood for a lot of reasons. And I'm probably less gracious with them as I probably would be on a normal day. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want y'all to feel like you ought to be embarrassed for your feelings or to ignore them. One of the things that y'all do and y'all been taught to do, probably by a lot of adults in your life, is to ignore them, to have your feelings be in a position where they're not real, like they're not important, and so you just kind of like say, yeah, whatever, this is life, and just kind of keep on trucking. Or we try to push those feelings down. We try to be like, I'm not mad, or I'm fine, I'm doing great, when you're really not. And you try to convince yourself that if I just keep saying I'm not, or that everything's all right, or it's not that big of a deal, then it really isn't. And what I have found is that that's not how feelings work at all. When we try to bury our feelings, they don't die, they grow roots. They sprout up everywhere else. Again, I've said this before, and I just want to say this to you, that to feel your feelings and to be with them in the moment is what that means. When I say ride the wave, some of y'all kind of get the idea that I'm talking about um, a kind of ignoring them. And that's not really what it is, it's quite the opposite. Think of it like this: if you're hungry and you know that you're going to eat in an hour, you obviously can't eat now. What doesn't help is to dwell on all the things you got to eat, because that just makes you more hungry. Um, what also doesn't help is pretend like you're not hungry. What does help is to acknowledge I'm hungry. I got the munchies. I'm thirsty for a soda. I'm thinking of some Munchos, and I could really snack on them right about now. And rather than sit there and think of how that's going to taste, say I'm hungry, but that doesn't change anything right now. And rather than have a defeatist attitude about your feelings, you can have an attitude of presence. Where are you hungry? Obviously, your stomach. Is your mouth watering? Most certainly. It's probably water. Well, I know it's watering right now because I just mentioned food, and that's a human reaction. Whenever we think of food, our mouth suddenly starts watering. Um, to wonder, how hungry am I? To think of those sorts of things. Could I eat, or am I starving? Do I feel like I really got to just like shove this in my face right now? And be present with it. Be present with it. To put a bit more meat on the bones, um, let's say you're dealing with anxiety and you are stressed about it. You're stressed about something. You may not even know what. Maybe it's a test coming up. Maybe it's the fact that you're failing. Honestly, you know what you're anxious about. You know just as much as anyone. You're anxious about not being able to see your friends, and that you're already a couple weeks into school and you're already failing everything, and then you're not going to pass these classes. You may have to take them again, or you're not going to have the greatest GPA. If you don't have the greatest GPA, then you're not going to get into college, and if you don't get into college, or the kind of college that you want to get in, then what is your life even? And you're going to be stressed and frustrated about that because, like, man, this algebra exam is literally my entire future, and I feel worthless because look at everybody else. They're crushing it out there. They pass the algebra quiz, and look at my ass. I ain't done nothing, and I'm just struggling, and I'm anxious about my future. And when you sit with it for a second, you are worried because it's just an exam. You need to get up. You need to relax. You need to chill. It's just one class. And you probably got a lot of other people telling you those sorts of things. It doesn't matter. But what they end up doing is delegitimizing those feelings. Like those feelings aren't important, or they're not necessary, or that what you're stressed about isn't something that you ought to be stressed about. If all of that was in fact true, that one bad exam or a not so great grade in one class that you can't retake because you passed it is going to influence your entire future, any adult would be stressed about that as well. Most adults are stressed about their future. I'm stressed about my future. My wife and I are stressed about our future. So I don't think it's fair to sit with it and say, I need to just, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It's just an exam, that's true. But it feels like a big deal, and that's what's important. The exam itself, or the class itself, or school itself is not a big deal. What is a big deal is how you feel about it. And how you feel about it doesn't go away just because you're telling yourself it's not important. So if I'm stressed and anxious, the last thing I want to do is try to tell myself that it's dumb. Nor do I want to do everything I can to only stress about this, and then once that's over, I'll feel better, because of course once that's over, then there's the next test, and now you're equally stressed about that. Now I'm at a C, but am I going to be able to have a C for the whole semester? What then? Think about when you feel your heart rate pump. You feel almost your blood kind of get cold. Feel it. And don't feel it in your gut. And don't feel it in your head. Feel it in your body. Are your hands shaking? Is it hard for you to breathe? Do you have headaches? Is your mouth dry? Is your heart rate pumping? What do you see? What do you smell around you? Those sorts of things. present with that emotion and keep doing what you're doing. Most importantly, breathe. Now, you've heard this said before, and it's something you see on the TV, especially whenever folks, like if women are pregnant, and they're like, I need you to breathe, all right? The reason they ask you to do that is because it keeps your heart rate down. Think about this. When you are stressed and anxious, instead of thinking, breathe. And don't just breathe because it's going to magically fix everything, but stop and really focus on your breathing. How often do you do that? Almost never. Even though it's something that you do literally every second of every day, is breathe. How often do you really pay attention to yourself? And I don't mean the things that you like to do or want to do or all the things that you feel like you should do. How often do you actually pay attention to breathing? How often do you pay attention to when you eat? How many of y'all, before y'all even take a bite of that food, you're sitting there, you relax, and you know it's about to be real good, but man, you got to find just the right video to watch before you can even get to it. How many of y'all do it? And y'all trying to tell me you don't do it. Try. I know you do it. You're not present. When was the last time you focused on every single bite? You know, the Greek Orthodox Christians have a habit. Buddhist monks do the same. They took this from Hindus, and that is to focus on their breathing, and they make their breathing a rhythm. Whenever they have overwhelming feelings, they focus on that breathing. For the Buddhist, it may be a comb. What is the sound of one hand clapping? They think about those sorts of things while they breathe at a consistent rate in and out. For the Greek Orthodox, they say things, theirs is, Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner, as they breathe out. Jesus Christ, Son of God, in, have mercy on me, a sinner, breathing out. Now, you can have a mantra with it if you like, if that's your deal, fine. If you are religious or have grown up in a religious home, or if your culture is primarily religious but you may not be, I would highly encourage you to take up that part of your history. Try it. Give it a go. If you're not a religious person or a spiritual person at all, breathe anyways. Focus on your breathing. In for 2, out for 3. In for 2, out for 3. What this forces you to do, and what the science has shown, is that your brain actually lights up like a Christmas tree because you're suddenly taking yourself off autopilot. And you're in the moment. You're suddenly out of your head and into your body. I don't know if y'all know this, but like 100% of your time is occupied in a body. But too much of us focus on everything else. Focus on something that's not our body. Focus on that. That's our feelings. I mentioned, I know this is already a long video, so please bear with me. But secondly, I know a lot of you guys may be frustrated because of your future. This goes back. This kind of goes into what I've been saying, is that we're so focused on what our future could be and has to be and ought to be with the pressures of everything that we forget to be in the present. I'm reading this book right now. I'll show it to you. It's by this fella. Called Eric Hoffer, Hoffer. It's called The True Believer. This man was a restaurant worker, a migrant field worker, and a gold prospector. And after Pearl Harbor, he worked a longshoreman in San Francisco for 25 years. And he never went to college and never graduated high school. And in his spare time, he studied philosophy, and he wrote a book called The True Believer. It's a fascinating book. It's about how people join mass movements, and I only mention it to say that he has a very interesting point that so many people are drawn into mass movements, whether it be Nazism or some religious movement or a nationalist movement. To him, they're all equally the same, not in the same of their effects. Obviously, Nazism is very different from a religion. Some have done wonderful things in the world, some none. But they're the same in that they entice the same kind of people. And they're not ignorant people, not stupid people, not foolish people. but people who are dissatisfied with their present, the people who don't join movements, who don't join religions or don't join a nationalist cause or don't join a revolution, are the kinds of people who are totally chill with where they are in life. They may not be happy with everything, but they are adjusted to the present. Movements are something that tell us there is a great future. And a lot of you have been taken into a movement of what college is supposed to be like, or your career. My entire class, for most of you, was nothing but the future. For most of you, because it was never about the present. It was about something about personal finance that would happen a couple of years down the line. And so you're rightfully dealing with the anxiety of that future and what that will look like to you. And if you don't memorize it and know it all by the time you get out in the real world, well, Mr. J. Mike's not going to be there for you in the real world, which is not true. Obviously, I am. But I say that to say that I think a lot of our anxiety or frustration, perhaps depression, is a dissatisfaction with the present. And we feel that the only way we can be satisfied is if our situation changes, if our environment changes. Our environment has a massive impact on us. The shape of our room, how clean our room is, how clean our car is, where most Americans spend about 80% of their time, how clean the air is. These environmental factors impact our health, not just our physical health, but our mental health as well. And for some of you, you're stuck in your room that has really kind of gotten a little dirty, and you're in bed all day, talking to people you don't particularly want to talk to, sitting and listening to things you don't want to listen to, but have to, just in order to make it to this promised land, which is, for most of you, college. And so you're rightfully dissatisfied because all the things that you want, like being able to drive where you want to, being able to work the job that you want to, getting out of the house and having to live with the people you don't want to, which is perfectly fair for a lot of you, is in the future. And you feel that until my environment changes, I won't be happy. What you will find is that, just like with a test, once you get over it, you're not really that happy afterward. There is still stress. Because what you really need is to learn to accept your present and be adjusted to it. That does not mean that we are, what's the word I'm looking for? Resigned to the present. That we just give up. Hell, this is my life. I'm just stuck here. This is what I'm going to have to do. No. It is a kind of acceptance in the present that leads us to action rather than inaction. And that's my third point. How can we be in our present and not be hopeless in it or resigned to it? For those that may have a little bit of difficulty with that word, I would encourage you to look it up. How can we do this? Through action. So much of our lives in the 21st century in America is inaction. We scroll, we watch, we consume, we don't do. You know, I was just talking to a friend of mine. I just spent a couple hours talking to him. His name's Chris Dreyer. Y'all probably heard him before. He was a fellow that took that motorcycle trip cross country. That is an action. Video games, for the communal aspect they may bring, sometimes the sense of accomplishment they bring, are not action. They leave us feeling void when we are finished with them. The conversations we may have with our friends sometimes are not really action. What is action? What do I mean by that? For some of you, it means to learn how to cook. It means putting your hands and your body into something with a measurable result. The reason why people love running or exercising is because they are out of this and into this. They are in their body and not their minds. So much of our dissatisfaction is because we are living here with an endless supply of a very critical voice, and not enough here with a measurable and provable rebuttal of that voice. I would not even venture to say that a um, exam or paper or studying is action. In fact, it is more of this. What I have done, excuse me, getting close to the camera again, is to get a journal. I write in it. I have been writing my thoughts, some of the difficult things I've been dealing with. I write them down just as my forefathers did before me. I journal my thoughts. I also will draw some of the things that I see. If I can't see them, I might show them to you later. Or I will cook. There are resources for that if some of you are interested. For those that come from more Hindu backgrounds, I would encourage you to take up a very old practice in your tradition, which is yoga. You would be shocked at how beautiful those movements are because they are action. I encourage you to ride a bike, take a trip, walk, run, exercise for 30 minutes. Make action and take it. Get into your body. Do something that only you can do. Draw. Learn to draw. Learn to write. Journal. Learn a new skill like a guitar. For those of you that may not have the luxury of the money to do some of these things, find an action that you can do, whether it be playing solitaire perhaps. Even something as simple as that. It is an action, it's a thought. Now, some of you may say, well, that's a game, and that's fair, but it's something that gets you into your body, gets you further into your body. If you go out for a walk and you go to Shelby Farms in Cordova, which I highly recommend, you'll find me. I'd be happy to hang out with you. Look around you. Instead of looking down to where you're going, look at where you are and breathe. These things are not going to fix your situation. I can't do that for you. And for some of you, it may be years that you will have to labor in very awful, very difficult situations, particularly with your home lives. However, you can grow and mature in the moment by being present through action. And rather than ignoring your feelings, treat them with the respect that you would treat with the respect of any of your friends. If someone came to you and said, "I feel so sad," you wouldn't say, "Damn, that's crazy." No one would do that. Would listen. Give yourself the same respect. And do something. If you like more ideas, I'd be happy to give it to you. For my next video, which I guess there's going to have to be one, I would like to talk to you about meditation and some of the things that we can do there that actually force you, whether or not you can actually run or walk or draw or paint or sing or learn a new instrument or exercise, you can at least meditate. And let me teach you how to do that. I would love to show you some of those things. I got a buddy of mine who, one of my students, shout out to Eli. He's extraordinarily well adjusted right now. One of the reasons is because he likes to cook. Take these things up, especially for those of you that come from traditions that have very different food from American food. For those of you from the South has excellent food. You don't know what you're missing. Learn to cook it. I just cooked some cornbread. I'll show it to you the next next video I make. I'd love to show that to you. It was damn good. But it's something that so many people have done before us. So many people have lived and strived under. For those of you that know your history, you know a woman named Abigail Adams. And she is second president of the United States, John Adams. It was his wife. Between her and her husband, they wrote about 5,000 letters. She was one of the most extraordinary women of American history. And she wrote in one of her letters, "I wonder if future generations will know what we have suffered for them." Your suffering is going to have to be a part of you guys. You can't get rid of it. But you ought not to, and not want to. She goes on to write, I wrote this down, if I may. She goes on to write, "These are the times in which a genius would wish to live. It is not in the still calm of life that great characters are formed. Greatness never came from a time of ease. You have an incredible opportunity for greatness. And that starts by getting out of here and into your body." And I'll leave you with a poem I wrote. I wrote it on a hill when I was in the woods. And before I share this, regardless of what you think of how good it is, I don't care about your opinion. I only share it to illustrate the kinds of things that can be beneficial, that force you to do, to create, to make something. The point is not to be good at it. If you want to draw, don't get on YouTube for several hours and try to figure out how to draw and then do it. Start drawing. And only whenever you have reached a roadblock of you cannot get any better, that's when you learn more. No, Arnold Schwarzenegger did not read a million books on how to create the greatest bodybuilding icon of all time before he did it. He did it. And then whenever he couldn't do it any better, that's when he read. So, do something. Don't rush to YouTube. Be here. Here. And I'll leave you with this poem. "I have come to a place that is high above the earth. Birds swim beneath me, and giants tread below. I am exalted, yet I am brought low. I am a man, yet I have entered a sanctuary, a temple where I may only observe the ritual of life. It is a place where creation sings louder than we may hear, a place where the simple become wise and time clothes eternity. I have come to a place that is high above the earth, and yet I will rest as low." I hope this inspires you. I'm very proud of you all, and I hope you continue to strive to be successful. Have a lovely night, y'all.